Hello everyone, my name is Ashfiya Khoirunnisa from Group 6, Class TFA. On this occasion, I will represent my group to share our technical notes about the use of radioisotopes for agriculture. This presentation consists of 4 parts. The first part will explain the reason why we choose this topic. The second part is the explanation of nuclear technology and agriculture. The third part is the explanation of radioisotopes and its uses in agriculture. The fourth part is about the use of radioisotopes, particularly potassium for fertilizer. Now, I will explain the reason why we choose this topic. Nowadays, nuclear is being discussed by several circles. Despite the controversy for the environment, the application of nuclear has proven to be able to provide encouragement in various fields such as medicine and agriculture. In Indonesia, agriculture is one of the key sectors of the national economy. Moreover, national food needs are also increasing, so technology is needed to increase the quality and quantity of production. One of them is the use of radioisotopes for agriculture. Now, I will explain the use of nuclear technology. The use of nuclear technology has become one of the important studies. Nuclear technology plays a role in development of industry, agriculture, and medicine. In agriculture, the use of nuclear technology is related to radioactive isotopes. The use of these radioisotopes includes the production of crops that are resistant to drought and pests, increasing agricultural productivity, and improving food processing. In the development of medicine, nuclear technology has contributed to the improvement of medical diagnosis, treatment of human diseases, and so on. Next, I will explain about agriculture. Agriculture has an important role in the development of alternative renewable energy, land conservation, and biological resources. However, since the Green Revolution, there has been a crisis of overuse of chemicals and has caused several problems. Problems caused are damage to agriculture, increasing levels of pollution, and disrupting the production process. Therefore, it is necessary to develop and utilize appropriate technology, namely nuclear technology in agriculture. This is the second part of the presentation. In this part, I will explain about radioisotopes and its uses in agriculture. Radioisotopes are tools used in research to develop new strains of plants that are drought and disease resistant, have high quality, shorter planting times, and higher yields. The element from the radioactive will emit various radiation and energy particles during decay. This radioactive exposure can improve crop quality and productivity by controlling pests, insects, and other diseases. The way it works is this radiation exposure will be fired at the parent plant, causing ionization in plant cells. This ionization causes the derivatives to have superior properties to their parent. Of course, the radiation exposure must be arranged in such a way as to obtain better offspring than the parent. These are the uses of radioisotopes in agriculture. The first one is the use of gamma radiation in the field of combating pests and diseases by insect sterilization. The second is the use of radioisotopes to increase product manufacturing and with changes in the genetic makeup of plants, leading to improved cultivar production. The third one is the use of radioisotope radiation to remove bacteria, including Escherichia coli. The fourth is the use of radioisotopes to prevent soil erosion and help farmers effectively use vital resources in the farming operations. The fifth is the use of radioisotopes such as iron, manganese, potassium, calcium, nitrogen, rubidium, carbon, cesium, silicon, strontium, and other macro and micro elements in fertilizers for soil fertility and increasing yield. This is the fourth and the last part of the presentation. In this part, I will explain the use of radioisotopes in fertilizers. But first, I will tell you the definition of fertilizer. A fertilizer is any material of natural or synthetic origin other than living materials that is applied to soil or plant tissues to provide one or more plant nutrients essentials for plant growth. Next, I will explain the use of fertilizer using nuclear radioisotope. Radioisotopes can be used to label various fertilizers. It is possible to assess nutrient efficiency by adding radioactive tracers to known amounts and varieties of fertilizers. This approach can reduce the amount of fertilizer required to produce good yields, reduce farmer costs, and reduce environmental damage. One example of the use of radioisotopes in fertilizers is potassium fertilizer. Isotopes of potassium are generally present in soil in a tightly bound form and have a low transfer rate to plants. Potassium occurs in nature in the form of three isotopes, namely Ca-39, Ca-41, and Ca-40 radioactive isotopes. In the general sense of natural sources of radiation, radiation of Ca-40 accounts for just 12%. Another use of potassium in fertilizers is to minimize radionuclide transitions. Cesium-137 and strontium-90 are the most harmful radionuclides. In the soil plant environment, the migration of these radionuclides contributes to their accumulation in plant materials. In order to minimize the transition of cesium-137 to plant products, minerals, in particular potassium, and organic fertilizers must be used and soil restrictions must be carried out. The study of the unique activity of cesium-137 and strontium-90 in the buckwheat vegetative mass has shown that the soil acidity and fertilizer system affect the level of their concentration. Thus, in variance with organic mineral fertilizer systems, the specific activity of cesium-137 in winter wheat grain is reduced by 18 to 30%. This is primarily because of its binding to organic compounds. Now, I will explain the description of potassium. Potassium, or also written in the letter K, is a soft silver-white metal, light in its pure form, that reacts very violently with water. Soils contain varying quantities of K-bearing minerals that constitute a major K reserve. Potassium is the most abundant cationic and essential nutrient and has an important role in agriculture. Now, I will explain the potassium cycle in the soil. There are three forms of potassium in the soil. The first one is the potassium that is dissolved in the soil solution. The second one is the fixed potassium, which includes vermiculites, zeolites, short-range aluminosilicates, potassium alunite, and potassium tannakite. The third one is exchangeable potassium, which includes clay minerals, sesqui oxides, and organic matter. The potassium which is absorbed by the plant is the potassium which is dissolved in the soil solution. The potassium in the soil solution comes from two sources. The first one is the structural potassium, which includes feldspars, micas, and other other potassium-bearing minerals. And the second one is from chemical fertilizers, which contains potassium. The first is biotic stress resistance. The use of potassium can reduce the prevalence of plant life diseases. In plants with sufficient potassium, compounds with high molecular weight such as protein, starch, and cellulose are synthesized, thereby reducing the concentration of low molecular weight compounds. Therefore, plants are protected from disease and infection as well as insect infestations. Potassium also increases the phenol concentration, which plays a role in plant resistance. The next one is abiotic stress resistance. Potassium, to a good extent, contributes to the survival of the plants exposed to numerous abiotic stresses. Abiotic stress factors resembling heat, cold, drought, and salinity had a large impact on the world agriculture, and that they will possibly scale back of average yields by 50% for many major crop plants. Redoubled application of potassium has been shown to reinforce chemical change rate, plant growth and yield, and drought resistance in several crops underneath water stress conditions. The first is drought and low moisture stress. Drought may be defeated by plants by causing deeper rooting, larger absorption surfaces, and larger water retention in plant tissues, which may even be overcome by application of potassium fertilizers with alternative nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen. There are three areas in which potassium plays its role to improve drought and low moisture stress resistance. The first one is aquaporins and water uptake. Potassium is also involved in the relationship between plants and water by modulating the permeability and hydraulic conductivity of membranes and altering the water permeability. The second is osmotic and stomatal regulation. Osmotic regulation is the most important feature associated with maintaining high cellular mole potential and water retention in its response to drought stress. An adequate amount of potassium can help to adjust osmotic, which maintains higher turbulent pressure, relative water content, and lower osmotic potential, thus improving the ability of plants to tolerate drought stress. The third one is detoxification of reactive oxygen species, abbreviated ROS. Drought stress induces the production of ROS, which causes cellular malfunction and growth. Role of potassium in reducing ROS production is by increasing photosynthetic carbon dioxide fixation, transporting photosynthetic material to sinking organs, and inhibiting the migration of photosynthetic electrons to oxygen. The second form of abiotic stress is salinity stress. Saline soils typically have higher natrium concentrations than potassium and calcium, so natrium passively accumulates in roots and shoots. It has been found that absorption of plant roots in the soil interferes with water balance, and high concentrations of salt in plant tissues are toxic. Salinity has affected plants by inhibiting seed germination and plant growth, affecting the leaf anatomy and physiology of plants, water relations, photosynthesis, protein synthesis, energy production, and lipid metabolism. The third form of abiotic stress is cold stress. Potassium improved plant survival under cold stress by increasing antioxidant levels and reducing ROS production. High concentrations of potassium protect plant cells from freezing by lowering the freezing point of the cell solution. When temperature changes occur and low temperature stress reduces the fluidity of the membrane, resulting in fatty acid unsaturation and changes in the lipid-protein composition of the cell membrane. Therefore, the higher the potassium tissue concentration, the less coat damage, the better the coat hardiness, and the higher the yield. The fourth and the last form of abiotic stress is waterlogging stress. The main biological effect that plants encounter during waterlogging stress is root respiration, and microorganisms further deplete residual oxygen, thereby making the environment hypoxic, where oxygen levels limit mitochondrial respiration, and then anoxic, where respiration is completely suppressed. This led to a serious decrease in the energy status of root cells, which affected important metabolic processes in plants. To overcome this difficulty, the application of potassium can effectively compensate for the adverse effects of waterlogging on plants. It has been reported that potassium supplementation during waterlogging not only increases plant growth, photosynthetic pigments, and photosynthetic capacity, but also improves plant nutrient uptake as a result of higher uptake of potassium, calcium, nitrogen, manganese, and iron. These diagrams shows the effect of potassium on water potential of mung bean and cowpea. In the diagram, there is significant reduction of water potential of both mung bean and cowpea after the potassium fertilizer is applied. This proves that potassium can decrease the effects of moisture stress in plants. Next one is the effect of potassium on photosynthesis rates. This diagram shows a significant increase on photosynthesis rates of both mung bean and cowpea after the potassium fertilizer is applied. This phenomenon could be related to the role of potassium in maintaining the osmotic potential in plant cells or the movement of photosynthesis from leaves. The conclusion of our presentation is that nuclear technology has many uses in agriculture. Therefore, we can use nuclear technology to develop Indonesian agriculture so that the Indonesian economy will be improved and the national food needs will also be fulfilled. This is the end of our presentation. I apologize for any mistakes I've done during the presentation, and thank you very much for listening. See you next time.